What up, fellow nerds, and welcome to another retrospective of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
And if you like what you see, bend a like our way and smash that subscribe button.
While you're at it, share this video with all your friends. And if you'd like to be notified of all of our other videos, why don't you go ahead and fire blast that bell. All right, welcome back, fellow nerds, to another retrospective review of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I got to tell you, this was one heck of a double episode that we watched. We went ahead and we took a look at the Winter Solstice. This is a two-parter. It's, I believe, if you don't count the pilot episodes, this is the first two-parter that we end up getting in this series. And man, was it a wild ride. It kind of introduces us to a lot of new ideas, a lot of new things. It really, overall, kind of, fully builds out the Avatar world. We get to finally, we get a chance to see what, their idea of what one of the spirits look like, as the Avatar is the bridge to the spirit world. We also get a chance to meet the previous Avatar, which we had only previously seen as a statue, along with a bunch of other statues in the Southern Air Temple. So, what did you guys, think so far? Thoughts about this two-parter?
Well, what I liked about these episodes is how they went back and forth between Aang and the waterbenders, the brother and sister, and Zuko and Iroh. They're keeping them all relevant within the story. And I like how, we were discussing before that Iroh is just really laid back about this whole thing. And we're getting into seeing, his character a little more. We're getting a little more depth. And I think I like the way it's moving the story along.
And, they were a two-parter, but they were two very different episodes. One is Aang kind of going into the spirit world to find out why this monster is attacking this Earth Kingdom. And then the second one is him, traveling to the Fire Temple to kind of talk with Avatar Roku. And even though, it was a two-parter. They definitely made sense and cohesion, but it was very much two different episodes. And I kind of liked it. It wasn't just one long episode that was kind of broken in half. It was really two different, stories that really intertwined well together. And, Dave made a good point. All the characters have a part. We learn a lot more about Iroh and really how formidable he is as a firebender. That was really nice to see his, you can see why he's so laid back and chill, because he's got the power to back it up. And it was kind of cool seeing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Keith. I thought that was amazing. Just getting to learn more about why Iroh was such a, feared general. This is also the very first time that we are given a name for the Earth Kingdom capital, and we find out that Iroh has a little bit of history with that as well. It being named Ba Sing Se. We'll be learning more about that in the second season. But so apparently Iroh was, who's first off, he's obviously the brother of the Fire Lord. We find out that he was a general during the war who led a whole bunch of troops to lay siege to Ba Sing Se, the Earth Kingdom capital. And these Earth soldiers who end up capturing later on, they bring this up. And it's pretty cool how, he sort of talks about it in sort of a nostalgic sort of, yes, Ba Sing Se. Oh, but that was in the past, and I'm done with that now. And so he's, kind of, you sort of see how he's sort of always kind of been this this Uncle Iroh that we see in this series, where he's just like, he'll do things, but he doesn't seem very mission focused that much. For instance, when it comes to Zuko trying to hunt down the Avatar so he can restore his honor and get back into his father's good graces, it doesn't seem to be a huge priority. They'll get to it when they get to it, but let's enjoy a hot tub and maybe some tea first.
Yeah, and I think that with Iroh, I think that's just like a cover so he doesn't seem threatening. So when you said they were taking him to Ba Sing Se, and he's on the back of the horse with the guard, with the earthbender, and he he says maybe these shackles, they're not tight enough because they're really uncomfortable. So could you do this for me? And that's how he tries to escape. He's so unassuming that the guards are like, all right, I guess we'll do that for you. You know, he seems like a nice guy. You know, and he says he was there at what 600 days. It was a long time to be away from home. We were tired. I was tired. You know, it was time to go home. You know, I acknowledge my defeat there. I think it's just, you know, it's not an act completely, but it really helps him out to seem unassuming and that he is something to be taken for granted. And then when he pulls his real skill out, you know, then you're in trouble.
See, I couldn't tell if it was him just trying to be unassuming so people take him lightly, or if he is just so incredibly laid back about everything. Now, obviously, he doesn't want to get captured and taken there because obviously he'd probably be executed after laying siege for 600 days. But he just seems like he's not really on mission. He didn't really care if he took Ba Sing Se. It was more like he did it because he was supposed to, but he either didn't really care that he failed or he learned from his mistakes. And he's like, okay, you know, I know what I did wrong and he's going to learn from it. I still haven't seen enough of him to know where he really lies or if he's somewhere in the middle of all of that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there, Keith. It could be that maybe he was a completely different person back then. Maybe he was a little more, you know, motivated as a Fire Nation general, and definitely did want to go through with his attack of Ba Sing Se. But you know, we don't know. We don't know his full story yet. It'll be laid out, you know, in seasons to come. We'll find out a little bit more about what makes him who he is. But what's really important about this particular episode is. And we'll actually get to it. Iroh actually seems to have a bit of a special ability. So let's kind of back up and we'll talk about like what gets us to that point. So Aang and Sokka and Katara, they're still flying over the Earth Nation, obviously. It's huge. They see this giant scar-looking kind of thing feature within the woods. And so they instantly fly down to land to see what is this? What's going on? And the forest is just burnt. It's burnt down. This just crushes Aang. I mean, he already has enough on his mind, basically being told by Boomy in previous episodes that, hey, man, you know, like you got a lot to do. You got to hurry up and defeat the Fire Lord. He's already feeling bad that like he's lost all of his family and friends. He's been frozen for 100 years. Now on top of this, him being the Avatar and supposed to be like the bridge between the human world and the spirit world and the protector of nature and, you know, all of this other stuff. Now he sees that he's basically allowed this to happen. And anytime Sokka gets a chance, he kind of sort of digs into Aang to remind, oh, yeah, you're totally right. Katara is the one who's like constantly trying to like reassure him. And she does so by presenting him with an acorn and basically letting him know, hey, Aang, look, it's okay. This forest will grow back. You know, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. Just as Katara is, you know, finishing comforting Aang, letting him know that everything's going to be okay, person from this local village comes running up and, you know, saying, oh my gosh, I saw the bison overhead. Are you the Avatar? Because we need your help. So we end up finding out that this forest that was burnt, that actually had a couple of repercussions. So we see this statue of a bear. And we don't really know, you know, what it means. Honestly, this is the first time that we've seen kind of like a normal animal in this world. Everything else seems to be some sort of like hybrid animal. So I guess just regular bears can exist too.
But, only in the spirit world.
In the spirit world. Right. So they go to this this village. Everybody just seems kind of like, you know, this isn't going to work. I don't even know why you're bothering. And, you know, Aang is like, hey, I've got to try. I mean, it's the least I can do. You know, please let me give it a shot. But the thing is, he's never had any formal Avatar training. He hasn't been able to, you know, he hasn't had the chance to work with any masters. He doesn't know how to actually speak to the spirits or enter the spirit world or do any of the stuff that he's supposed to be able to do as an Avatar. In fact, he's actually, according to what they mentioned in some previous episodes, I believe it was either the Storm or in the Southern Air Temple, they had mentioned Aang is actually too young. He wasn't even supposed to know that he was the Avatar at this point. So, you know, he really should have been more grown up before he had to deal with all of this stuff. But he attempts to talk to this black and white spirit, which we end up finding out is named Hei Bai, which I believe basically just stands for black and white. I'd have to verify that, but I believe that's what I read that it stood for. But yeah, it's just this this weird monstrosity of a spirit with a whole bunch of legs. It's got this sonic scream, and it's just destroying buildings. Now, what I find interesting is everybody can see Hei Bai. They don't have an issue, so that tells me that he's got a physical presence in the human world. He is not restricted to just the spirit world. But yeah, he's just going on a rampage, destroying this village. And Aang is doing his best to like airbend at him, talk to him, yell at him, and Hei Bai is having none of it. And even Sokka tries to help by throwing his boomerang. So good job, Sokka. That helped. And in return, he gets kidnapped by Hei Bai, and Aang runs after him. Now, at this point, Hei Bai is returning back to the spirit world. So I was discussing this with the guys earlier, and I think what this means is this particular spirit, he seems to have the ability to move back and forth between worlds. He seems to be able to traverse between the human world and the spirit world, which, again, I don't know if, the creators, if they had fully fleshed this idea out yet, the idea of the separation between the worlds, or, what they were really going for at this point. But it is kind of an interesting concept. But Hei Bai disappears, so does Sokka, and Aang is kind of in an interesting position. He is now glowing blue, and he can't seem to airbend. And that's because we find out that he's actually not in his body right now. He says that he's in the spirit world. I don't really interpret it as that. I wouldn't say necessarily that he's in the spirit world. We'll end up finding out, in future episodes and in future seasons, that the spirit world is kind of this whole separate place altogether. But maybe they also use it as a verb to mean that you're out of your body. But yeah,
you
basically
think he was projecting himself?
Yeah, he's astral projecting. That would be the term of what he's doing. But yeah, so he's out of his body, but he realizes he can't airbend. And I also think that that's an awesome touch to, like, what it means to be a spirit, a human spirit, meaning that you don't have that connection to whatever is inside you that gives you the ability to airbend or firebend or waterbend or whatever. I thought that was a neat little nod. So another thing is, now that he's in this form, he cannot communicate with anybody. Nobody can see him. Nobody can hear him. And he is just lost. He's confused. He doesn't know, what he's supposed to be doing. Again, he hasn't had any formal training. So, he's like begging Roku, the previous Avatar, you've got to help me. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know how to get out of this form. I don't know how to help my friends, and Roku apparently hears him and sends his animal guide. So Aang has Appa, and Roku had a dragon, which is kind of cool. It's like, in my opinion, it looks like a mix between a Chinese dragon and an Eastern dragon, with kind of the long body, but it still has the large wings.
It's kind of like the dragon from Mulan that Eddie Murphy voiced.
He is kind of a hybrid of, the Eastern version and the Western version. I didn't even notice that when I watched that. But I was just like thinking, man, if I was going to have, an animal like that, I think I'd rather have a dragon than, a giant flying bison. But nothing against, flying bisons. They're awesome.
Oh, yeah. Up is the best. But, yeah, so Aang is basically going to ride on the dragon, and I wish I remembered his name. Totally forgot to put it in my notes. But yeah, so Aang is basically going to, have this dragon lead him, hopefully, to Roku, or at least, let him know what he's supposed to be doing. But what's really cool about this, and so this is what I wanted to lead up to. Nobody was able to see Aang in his spirit form. Yeah, so what's really interesting about this is Iroh is actually able to see the dragon flying overhead, and he isn't just surprised that he sees the dragon. He's surprised that I think that he sees Aang on top of the dragon as well. But he's also the only individual that can see them. So again, I think this is a pretty cool character building on Iroh's part. I'd love to know, more about how he's able to see spirits, what gives him this ability that nobody else has. maybe he had a close encounter with death, or does he have a special connection with the spirit world? Maybe this is why he's so laid back and kind of disconnected from like, larger missions and just kind of takes things as they go. What do you guys think?
See, I was thinking that he might be related to Avatar Roku, share some blood, and that's why he was able to see the Avatar Roku's animal with Aang on it. That was my first instinct, and obviously I haven't seen all 3 seasons yet, so I don't know if it's ever played out, but my initial instinct was, I wonder if he's related to Roku. And, some things we find out in the next episode kind of made me think, okay, that's why he is kind of laid back about going after the Avatar. He doesn't really want to catch Aang. He honestly, in the long run, wants to help him because he sees the fault in how the Fire Nation is being. He believes in balance, and all nations and all bending needs to be there to have balance within the world.
For what you're saying about Iroh is that he actually sees the overall picture, and he does what, like you're saying in the next episode, we're going to see sages, that he actually believes in defending the Avatar, because all avatars, they kind of, like Avatar Roku, was his place was in the Fire Nation. That's why they go in the next episode to the Fire Nation, to the temple. So, there's an Avatar Airbender, Avatar Earthbender, and it kind of rotates through the generations or the next Avatar. So I could see like Iroh having that same, if he has that connection, that's why he would have that connection, because it was from Fire Nation 100 years ago. You know what I mean? And a couple other things in this episode that I liked was the way that, when they got to that village and Aang was like, they're asking Aang to help him out. And he says, I don't know anything about it, but it doesn't matter to him. I got to try. You know what I mean? His positive attitude. And he says, maybe something will happen and I'll figure it out as I go. That's a great attitude to have. And that's a great attitude. This is a kid show. This is a great attitude to show to the kids, And throughout that episode, we get to see that Zuko isn't so bad either. He discovers Iroh's capture. He goes after him, and then at one point he makes a decision whether or not to follow the Avatar or save his uncle, and he saves his uncle.
Yeah, and that won't be the first time that he does that either, which is really telling of his character as well. We see a couple of times where he'll yell at his uncle or yell at his crewmates or whatever, but deep down he really does like love and respect the people who are with him. The people who are, closest to him. Because, yeah, like you said, he does see where he's got the opportunity to go after the Avatar, but he's going to find his uncle and rescue him first. And also, I just want to kind of like give a little nod to like when he goes to try and pick up Iroh, and he makes the incredible genius distinction that Earth doesn't go that direction. Well, what was the first giveaway for you there, buddy? The giant spikes that are jutting upward. So I thought that was funny. Unintentional, I assume, but still definitely pretty funny. But yeah, it really shows that Zuko cares. He truly loves Iroh. I think like a father almost. I think he sees him like a father figure, whether he realizes it yet or not. Because his real father kind of sounds like a dickbag, really.
No, you're right. He's the guy who's with him. I don't know why he's been with him all this time, but I always assumed he came with him to, help him out, because he even said in one episode that, and I think it's further on in the season where he feels like he's his son. And I think that's evident all throughout things he's done, where he's talked to the crew after Zuko's been, really kind of terrible to him. He talks to him and says, this is why he's that way. And he's always supporting him, and he always knows. I think he knows that he's a hot-headed young kid, and he's going to, and maybe himself, maybe Iroh was the same way when he was young, and he kind of came about and figured out that's not the way to be, and he is the man he is today after being a hot-headed youth. And he sees the same thing in Zuko.
Oh, you could be totally right about that. I hadn't thought about that. I would actually love to see kind of like if they were to ever do some sort of like prequel series or something. I'd love to see a younger Iroh. I think that'd be great. kind of like actually see him during his full siege of Ba Sing Se and see what kind of general he was and things like that. I think that'd be awesome.
It would be great if he's just like playing that game. It's
Show.
like, aren't we supposed to be attacking them? Oh, in a few minutes. The men are kind of tired. Let's just let them relax for a few minutes.
First, let me move my tile forward. Yeah, but so Aang basically he doesn't really get he doesn't really get the answer that he's trying to seek. So actually, now that I think about this, and Dave, you kind of hinted at this before when you were mentioning sort of how they're going back and forth between another like Aang and Zuko story. In a way, they're both seeking something. And it's very similar to other episodes where they're kind of showing this duality between the two of them. So Aang is seeking answers to find out more about how to interact with spirits, and Zuko seeking his uncle who got captured. So I think that's kind of an interesting concept. I like how they did that. But yeah, so while Zuko's off trying to figure out where Iroh is and get him back, also following the trail that Iroh left for him. I thought that was cool how he dropped his sandal after he had pulled his old man, please tighten my shackles stunt. Yeah, so...
Sandal and
yeah. But Aang, he doesn't really get the answer that he was exactly looking for. Instead, he kind of gets more thrown on his shoulders that I don't think he really expected. So now he's being told by Roku, hey, if you want to have like a good long conversation with me, you're going to have to come to this temple that I'm showing you. This temple, it happens to be located in the Fire Nation, by the way, so good luck getting there. And you have to do it by tomorrow when it's the Winter Solstice, hence the name of these episodes. Oh, and by the way, something spirit magic, I guess, because then when Aang comes back now with even more burdening him, he kindly, I think he finally puts two and two together, and he realizes as he's looking at his body in the forest, he realizes, oh, that's why the spirit is pissed off. He's the spirit of this forest, and I think maybe that's what gives Hei Bai the ability to go back and forth between worlds, is maybe because he is the spirit of that forest. But once Aang realizes that, and once he acknowledges that to Hei Bai, he's able to talk to him like, hey, I know who you are now. I know that you're the spirit of this forest. And look, I was down about the forest being burnt down too. But hey, man, here's some acorns. It's going to grow back. And we finally see that Hei Bai actually has two forms. Not only is he black and white in regards to his color, but he's black and white in the fact that when he's angry, he turns into this monstrous spirit. But when he's calm, he turns into a panda bear.
Yeah, very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde-esque. When he's angry, he's definitely kind of a monster. But then when he's calm, he's a sweet little panda bear.
Absolutely. And as he retreats back to his forest, now that he's been calmed down, and Aang has done his job of bridging the mortal world to the spirit world.
Calm down with Katara's wisdom too.
Right, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Which I love how that was basically kind of like setting it up. Good storytelling. But he retreats back to his forest, and a whole bunch of bamboo grows behind him. I don't know if that's technically a spirit power, or if it was just him, sort of bridging the two worlds together or whatever. But we see Sokka and a bunch of other villagers. So apparently, on top of Sonic blasting a bunch of buildings, he's also been kidnapping a bunch of other villagers on top of that. And who knows how long he's been doing that, or how long these people have been in the spirit world. But they all now come wandering out of this bamboo. And Sokka, I don't know if he is aware of how much time has passed, and that's why I question how long ago he kidnapped these villagers and how long this has been going on. Because who knows? I kind of wish that they had spent a little more time on this. But what if he had kidnapped somebody 50 years ago, and they hadn't aged the entire time they were in the spirit world, and then come wandering out, where are my parents? Oh, they're dead.
Can you be my new parents?
Right.
I love Sokka. Every time he's like the comic relief. He's always just hungry. Where have I been? And you were in the spirit world for 24 hours. Oh, okay, let's get something to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so that leads us right into our next episode, where Aang is like, "All right, cool. So we figured this out. By the way, we got to go to the Fire Nation." I'm sorry, what? What did you say there? Yeah, we just real quick, make a trip to the Fire Nation. We got to go over to the nation that's burning down the entire world. We just got to do that real quick. That's the only way that I can speak to Avatar Roku, and it's the only way that I can find out a little bit more about what I'm supposed to be doing as the Avatar, since I literally have nobody else to tell me how to do my job.
And you know what I thought about when I was seeing this scene? Is Obi-Wan coming to Luke on Hoth and telling him he has to go to the Dagobah system to meet with the Jedi Master. And they're like, you got to go where? And he's like, yeah, or to the Dagobah system. I was like, oh my God, it was very parallel to that storyline in Empire Strikes Back, and I loved it. I was like, oh, that's awesome. The Fire Nation, what?
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. I honestly think that was done on purpose. And they're going to actually do it again in, I think, the third season as well, because these guys, the guys who created the series, they're huge nerds. They watch a whole bunch of sci-fi and other anime and everything like that. If you guys remember from our first review of this series, we were talking about Aang's original sci-fi roots of what he was supposed to be, with Momo being a cyborg monkey and Aang being some sort of like big-eared old man with air powers or something. So yeah, I can see why they would definitely want to reference Star Wars. They probably love that too, as well as like all of the other shows that they actually had their staff watch in preparation for this. And I had mentioned to Dave that this particular episode, the Spirit World, this one actually referenced very heavily a Hayao Miyazaki film, Princess. I'm probably going to say this wrong. Mononoke, I think, was the title, and I guess so. That is one that I haven't seen. I'll have to check it out on HBO Max or something. Dear HBO Max, please sponsor us. But yeah, apparently it's completely the same story, where there's some sort of forest spirit in the form of a panda bear or something like that, and they end up having to quell his anger because the forest was burned down due to war. This is set in like ancient Japan, and they have to calm him down by giving him an acorn. So if you guys have actually seen this film, let us know in the comments below. Tell us if that is actually true, if this is basically like a one-to-one. I'd be interested in finding that out. But yeah, so this takes us right into our next episode, and that being Avatar Roku. So again, Aang needs to talk to Avatar Roku before the Winter Solstice. So he has to, him and Katara and Sokka, they got to go to the Fire Nation. Now, Aang is trying to pull the whole hero thing where, I'll make the sacrifice. I'll go on my own, and I'm going to leave you guys behind. And they're like, nah, man, we're going to go with you, obviously. Like, you don't have to do this on your own. We're with you. We're Team Avatar. So they're flying. They made quick time. It seemed like Game of Thrones sort of speed with how quick they were able to get Appa to move, and ended up flying over to Fire Nation waters. And we find out that they've got this whole a whole bunch of ships going back and forth, basically guarding where it divides. So the dividing line between where it's Earth Kingdom and Fire Nation. And one of the individuals on one of these ships happens to be our old friend Commander Zhao. Get to see him again. And as per usual, Zuko is hot on the trail, ready to chase down Aang, and we find out something else, which I guess I hadn't considered until seeing this episode. We find out that it's basically a crime for Zuko to re-enter the Fire Nation because he's been banished. So not only can Zhao capture the Avatar, who is a wanted criminal, but if he captures Zuko upon entering the Fire Nation, he can arrest him as well. Now, I don't know if that would mean he would get thrown in some sort of Fire Nation prison, or if that just means that he gets like double banished. I'm not entirely sure what the repercussions for that are.
See, I took it as he would be executed if he was caught coming back into the Fire Nation without the Avatar.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be right.
And that's why Iroh is trying to get him to turn around. He says, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And he's like, "We have to do this. This is I'll show my father, and then he'll forgive me," or whatever he says. And Iroh says, "You don't know your father like I do."
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, he's even Iroh is basically saying, "Yo, your father's like a huge dick, man. Like you don't want to, you don't know him like I do, man. He's like, did you see the opening intro? He's the bad guy. He's the baddie, Zuko."
Remember, you were trying to protect members of this nation, and he not only beat you in a duel and gave you that scar, but he banished you. He's not a good dude.
Yeah. So, Commander Zhao, he seems to be a pretty intelligent dude. He's got this plan. He's going to get his, 2-for-1 deal. And he's like, I'm going to get the Avatar and I'm going to get Prince Zuko. And he's, for some reason, I think this must go back to before their Agnikai, when Zuko beat him. I think that because there always seems to be this animosity toward, between the two of them. So I don't know what happened, before Zuko got banished. But yeah, he really does not like Zuko all that much. And so he's looking for an excuse to basically capture him. So it almost seems like he cares more about getting him than the Avatar. But, he obviously sees the importance of that too. But he decides he's going to go ahead and halt the ship's movements. And he's going to let Zuko through, which Iroh, calls right away like, oh, this is a trap, Prince Zuko. I really don't think we should be doing this. But yeah, so Zuko's going through. He's chasing down the Avatar. Somehow they're able to get through too without dodging every single one of the fireballs that are being launched at them. Which, like, wow, that's luck right there. Maybe Aang is related to some famous Jedi too, where he's able to.
Wouldn't have been much of a story either if they got blown out of the sky and killed in episode 8.
The end. Yeah, I get that it has to happen for the story to go, but man, their luck. Because Appa does not seem like he's that aerodynamic, to be fair. I mean, yeah, he can fly, but to be able to dodge that many, huge fireballs, that's cool. Good for you, buddy. But yeah, they're able to make it in. Yeah, that is a superpower. Maybe he's got like a propulsion jet in the back. Never mind, I don't want to think about that. But yeah, so they're able to make it to the temple, and we actually get to find out a little bit more about the Fire Nation that we, hadn't really considered before. That these fire sages were once one of them actually explains, the group of them, they actually explained that this is the Avatar's temple, and they're, supposed to serve the Avatar. So they're firebenders, but the fire sages themselves were supposed to be these spiritual leaders or whatever, and basically be there for the Avatar. However, it seems like a group of them are now under the thumb of the Fire Lord, which is not the way it was supposed to work. So I'd love to know a little bit more about that history when that actually took place. At the time when this series came out, there was also a couple of comics that came out. I'd have to try and figure out where they were, but they go a little bit more in depth into the idea of the Fire Nation's past, like way before even Roku, where they didn't have a Fire Lord. Apparently, the Fire Nation was governed by these fire sages, and it was a very spiritual country. And the top fire sage at one point decided to crown himself the Fire Lord. And that's where their whole monarchy came from. Again, I'd have to look up which one of the comics that little history thing came from, but I thought that was very interesting.
And that's, we've talked about the parallels between the Fire Nation and, how fascist states usually work. And this is just another example of that, where the government kind of gets into the, the spiritual, aspect of their citizens, whether it's the church or in here it's, the fire sages, and they come to be part of the state and not separate how they should be. And you can see this here when, they're all like, we serve the Fire Lord, not the Avatar.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So one of the fire sages does happen to still hold that truth. And he does want to help out Aang and the gang. That rhymed. And get them down to be able to talk to Avatar Roku. So they all know why he's there. Because if you guys remember in the Southern Air Temple when, Aang found out about the death of all of his family and friends and everybody that he ever loved and cared about, he went into the Avatar state and all of the statues' eyes glowed blue, which apparently this had happened also in all of the other, temples across the world where they have Avatar statues present. So not only did this happen in, I believe it happened in like a northern water temple, but it also happened here in this Southern Fire Temple as well. And I think that's pretty interesting that the Avatar has like this almost like a network connection to all of these spiritual artifacts and everything. It's kind of neat. But yeah, this one fire sage is willing to help them. He's going to get them to Avatar Roku's chamber where his statue is. But they find out that they can't get in unless they've got, like a whole bunch of firebenders to be able to open these doors.
And
I love this scene where Sokka comes up with the way to get in there because obviously none of them can bend fire. Something he learned as a child to, fool others into think he's actually firebending when he's not. So, and he sets all these up and it still doesn't work.
And that's what I liked about it too, that it didn't work. It was a great idea, but it didn't work. So they had to come up with another plan on the fly. And I just like when, not everything works perfectly, as you're going through the episode. Sokka's learning and he's got a good mind and he does good things, but not everything works out exactly how you want it to. And I like how they come up with the other plan to, fool them that they're already inside the temple, so they'll use their firebending to open a door so they can get inside. I really kind of like that because when I first did, we'll just put these bombs in here. I was like, does that really work the same as a firebending would? I mean, it's one pulse, one quick flare, but does the temperature? Yeah, I was thinking a little too much about it, but I was happy it didn't work because I thought, the temperature has to be a certain point for a certain amount of time. Because when he airbends, he puts a bunch of air into it. So the locks click into place. So I'm like, it has to be more than just an explosion with quick heat and flare. It's got to be sustained. So I thought that was cool.
Keith, this is a kids show, okay?
I know. I saw the genocide from the Southern Temple.
Yeah, so I love this too because this, again, we've got a little bit more character development. So this shows how intelligent both Katara and Sokka really are. So first off, Sokka comes up with this idea of, trying to create these like makeshift bombs to, blow them up. And I like the idea of a bomb doesn't really exist in this world. They don't really call it that. He calls it like some sort of like a fake firebending or whatever. And of course they wouldn't have bombs because you've got people who can literally bend fire out of nowhere. So yeah, I kind of like that like they're basically inventing things on the fly. It's like, yeah, you just take this animal skin and this powder and then you can make it explode. And it's got all the power of fire bending and everything. And I also like how Katara comes up with this idea of, oh, well, actually this looks close enough to firebending that we could probably fool them into thinking that Aang made it in there. Now, how Momo got in there, I would love to know. I don't know if he managed to crawl through one of those dragon mouths or how he got in there, but man.
That'd be interesting to find out because, yeah, they never really explained it. There's probably plumbing or air ducts. There's always air ducts, so they probably didn't feel the need to explain it because everyone knows air ducts in the fire temple. Otherwise, the place would overheat and, explode.
But overheat.
Thank you very much. I'm here all week.
But yeah, so it totally works as they intended. They're able to fool the other fire sages into opening the door for them. They almost don't make it though because Zuko shows up and he grabs Aang and he's ready to cart him off until Aang, of course, is able to use his airbending mastery and escape from his grip, fly in there at the last minute. But we also find out that so Zuko had tried to lay some sort of trap or basically hide from Commander Zhao and leave a trail of smoke behind his ship in order to get to the temple. But I think Commander Zhao already knew ahead of time exactly where Aang was going, just like the sages knew where he was going. And so, unfortunately, not only does Zuko show up, but so does Commander Zhao, and they are determined to, get Aang. And they want to get him as soon as those doors open and he comes back out. But Aang gets the chance to finally talk to Roku. And, man, what a great voice actor that they chose for this guy. I forgot to write down who actually does it. But, very intimidating, very cool. And, we get to learn a little bit more about, again, the spirit world and the Avatar process and everything like that. And we also learn how soon Aang has to basically become a master Avatar and stop the Fire Lord. He has to do it by the end of summer because the comet that originally started the war is going to make another round. And he's pretty sure, Roku is sure, that the Fire Lord is going to use this comet to basically boost all the firepower of all of the firebenders. And they're going to just devastate the entire world. So they need to do something about this. And Aang even says, how am I supposed to do this? Like, and Roku mentions, I had years to master the elements. You don't have that time. So good luck, buddy. You got this.
Yeah, and I liked it because, originally it was like, okay, we found out he was really too young to really know he was the Avatar. So, he's got that sort of setback. And then, he has to get to Roku by the next day to make sure that he can speak to him so he can learn some things. And then, okay, not only are you too young and you had to race here, putting yourself in harm's danger because everyone knew where you were going, but now you don't have time at all to really dilly-dally or be a 12-year-old. You need to master all of these elements because if you don't, by the end of next summer, the Fire Nation wins. And I was like, oh man, that is so much to put on such a young kid who really, isn't old enough to really know he's the Avatar yet. And I was like, they are just doing a really good job with kind of making, okay, you're a kid, but you have these responsibilities, and it keeps becoming more and more pressing that he acts like an adult. And I was like, oh man, poor guy, he's getting forced into adulthood too quick. But he's got to do it for everybody because without him, the Fire Nation is going to take over, and it's not going to be, the world as it was anymore. It's going to be living under their thumb. So I thought that was just a very nice touch.
I have seen beyond this episode, but for those who haven't, you wonder if it's going to take a more serious tone from now on, because up to this point, he's just been like, he'll do the battle, whatever has to be done. And the next thing he's doing is like, all right, let's go have some fun, But now they've laid all this pressure on him. He's got to get this done by the end of summer, or it could mean the end of the world for as you know it, So that's a lot of pressure to put on a mentally 12-year-old, So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes forward, if he's still the fun-loving kid or if he's a lot more focused.
Yeah, that's real tough to have to put on him. And it really kind of it brings home this idea that this might be a little bit more than just a kid's show.
Well, and I think they did a good job of, Dave talked about it earlier, how it teaches good lessons to kids, hey, I don't know what to do, but I got to try something, I got to, help these people. It's saying, hey, have fun, but you have responsibilities, and adulthood's going to come quicker than you can possibly imagine. It came on me super fast. I don't know what happened. I was, 12 just a few months ago, I feel like, and now, look where I'm at.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, it's crazy how quick time flies. But, if this was anything like the anime that sort of helped influence this, at least he would be an adult by 10.
Yeah, no, true.
So Aang does manage to get out there, but in the coolest, most badass way possible. Roku lets him know, all right, so we had a great talk. You got a whole bunch of stuff you got to take care of. So go ahead and put that on your checklist. Gain absolute power in a couple of months. You got this. Find your masters. You can do it. Also, by the way, you're going to have to learn firebending. Don't know how you're going to figure that one out. But you got this. Oh, and you have to kill the Fire Lord. So make sure you write that down. Kill Fire Lord. But, oh, by the way, before you can do all that, there's a trap outside for you, and you're definitely going to die. And he's like, oh, man, how am I going to get out of this one? Roku's like, got this, bro. And doors fly open, and they're all like, oh, my gosh, it's Avatar Roku. And there he is, like, just in full Avatar mode. And he's, like, gathering all the fire that they're shooting at him, and he's redirecting it back at them. I mean, this was such a badass scene, and I loved it. This was great. And I absolutely love seeing a fully realized Avatar. They kind of like, that was another idea that they had mentioned, sort of term that they had dropped early on when they were talking about that door, this idea of a fully realized Avatar. And I believe what that means is just somebody who, an Avatar who has gained all of his elemental control.
And I thought it was nicely put to show Aang, he can get there. He's going to be able to do this. And once he is, he's going to be this powerful. And that's how he's going to be able to, beat the Fire Lord and save the world, because he's going to have immense power. It was showing him a glimpse into his future, I thought, to really, boost his confidence. Instead of having that nagging doubt that how am I ever going to be able to do this, it showed him what he can be once he's fully trained. And I love that scene too. It was great seeing the spirit of Roku just thrashing all these people.
I wanted to echo your remarks. In fact, I can't say it any better than you said it. With him seeing the fully realized Avatar, just like, boom, this is how it's supposed to be. I'm not there yet. But if I was not frozen for 100 years, this is where I would be.
And this is where your hard work is going to get you. So put in the work.
For sure, for sure. But speaking of that, I do love, again, Sokka's little dig at Aang as they first enter the temple, because he's got to give him a hard time. You're just about 100 years too late. Thanks, Sokka. Really helping out there. But yeah, so that basically brings us to the end of this two-parter series. So what did you guys think? What'd you think about these two episodes, and what would you rate them?
I really enjoyed both of these. I like the first one, how not every issue is solved with violence and power. He was able to calm the beast, and he found out, while in the spirit world, that, hey, I have to go talk, and I only have a day to get over there. I thought it was really, well played. And then, they have that, he gets to the fire temple. You have that one sage who still believes, as he should, they serve the Avatar, not the Fire Nation. They're above, nationalization. So helps them, and ends up, climaxing in Aang finding out not only does he need to do this quickly, but sees the power that he is going to have at the end of all this. And I thought they just did a really good job of bringing all of that together in 2 episodes. I mean, we learned so much about the Avatar and about past Avatars and about the Fire Nation and about the spirit world. They really jam-packed a lot of info into 2 episodes. And I was, mesmerized watching both of these. I really enjoyed both of them. And I'm going to rate them together, since it is, part 1 and part 2 of the Winter Solstice. And I'm going to go, I'm probably going to go like 8.8, because I thought it was really well done. The characters are, still driving forward. They're getting goals that they need to have. They're not going to be able to just, kind of freelance all over town and visit all the places Aang wants to go. He's got a timetable now, and I just thought it was really well played. And, I can't wait to rewatch them. I wanted to do it before this video, and I didn't get time, so I'm definitely going to do it soon. I just really enjoyed these episodes. Well done.
I agree. My rating on the overall, the 2 videos, I would give it an 8.5. I think I liked episode 7 more than episode 8. It was a little more lighthearted, but obviously, there are issues that you can't be lighthearted about in order to get your story across. I enjoyed the way they portrayed the story, and that Aang realized what he needs to do. So I think, I like the way it's going, and I like the 8.5 I gave it. What do you think, Doug?
Yeah, so I'm going to give it a slightly higher rating, mostly because now I I'm kind of indifferent about the Hei Bai story. That was kind of fun. It was also important to give us a little bit more information about the spirit world and that kind of stuff there. But I will give it a higher rating, that particular episode, just because of all of the great stuff with Iroh. So yeah, I think I'm going to give both of these episodes an overall 9 out of 10. Absolutely there for all of the fun with Iroh. I thought that was great. That was just hilarious how he was able to, sort of play the old man sort of act and pretend like he was in trouble in order to be able to leave clues for Zuko to find him. I love how he was ready to just let the ship leave without him so he could enjoy his time in his hot tub. And I also love hearing a little bit more about his siege of Ba Sing Se. I really like hearing that there's a whole lot more to him. As far as the next episode goes, I was totally there for superpowered Roku. That was amazing. I kind of agree with Dave as far as it was slow-ish, as far as it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of like fighting or action going on, but I did like how it sort of opened up to the idea that how crafty and intelligent both Katara and Sokka are, and I like how when they needed to, they were able to concoct a plan, or at least concoct basically two plans to come up with how they were going to get Aang into that temple room, and I thought that was really great. I love being able to, hear from Roku exactly what's going on. This idea of Sozin's Comet, it's going to be coming back. Sozin being one of the former Fire Lords. So yeah, these episodes were great. Like I said, I could do without, some of the Hei Bai stuff. It was okay. It was fine. But overall, these episodes were great. They had a little bit of fun in them, but it also brought us right back down to earth with reminding us what Aang's mission is and exactly how much weight he's got on his shoulders. And also telling us exactly what potential he has and what he can become as a fully realized avatar. So yeah, again, I give it a 9 out of 10. All right, so that wraps up our retrospective review of the Winter Solstice, Avatar: The Last Airbender. What did you guys think? What are your theories on, what's going to end up happening? Have you already watched all the episodes? Are you a true Avatar master? And let us know in the comments below what you thought.